Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Well, good day to you. It is August the 4th, 2020. And I hope you are having a wonderful day wherever you are, but also at the same time, staying diligent in the face of this pandemic, staying safe, of course, and of course, taking the time to look out for each other. It's important that I think that we do that. Now, at this point, in pretty much every video, I've always taken the time to extend an opportunity to whoever has a question about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom to simply post your question as a comment. That's probably the best thing to do. Or you can email me directly at searchforsigns@mail.com and then listen to what I try to and how I try to answer your question in the next video. Alrighty. Now, I do want to draw your attention to this image on this background. Who is this handsome devil right here? Now, this person is Rembrandt, or it's actually a painting of Rembrandt. Now, if you're not familiar with the artist Rembrandt, he lived about 400 years ago. Definitely among the biggies when it comes to art, especially the Renaissance painters of the several hundred years ago. He is definitely one of the biggies. His artwork is found in nearly, if not all, of the great museums around the world. The Prado, the Louvre, the Frick, and so forth. Very, very advanced disciple at the time that he was Rembrandt. And according to Benjamin Creme's master, he is actually a master now, working with humanity. Now, I don't know his plans and purposes as a master. He didn't really get into it too much. He just said he was a teacher on the inner planes. Whether that means he will eventually come into incarnation, I don't know, but I doubt he'll be one of the masters that will be introduced not long after Maitreya is known for who he is. But he's not living in one of the major cities like the master who was Jesus, or the master in New York, or the master in London, and so forth. But he's working with humanity some kind of way. But his level when he was Rembrandt, very, very advanced. In fact, he was what's called a third-degree initiate. He's probably on par with, or he definitely was on par when he was Rembrandt, with somebody like Shakespeare or Mozart, Abraham Lincoln, the Apostle John, are examples of people who were third-degree initiates. Anybody is at that level, their soul is nearly infused into their personality. Not quite, but almost. And when that happens, whatever area of life they're serving in, whether it's art or politics like Abraham Lincoln, they are having a tremendous and profound and long-lasting effect on whatever they're doing. And they do it naturally. They don't desire it. It just is who they are, really. And of course, Rembrandt, being a painter, is still very much of an influential person in terms of the art even of today. Just like Shakespeare still challenges the greatest literary minds of our time. But he lived several hundred years ago, and really is probably the top literary figure. Wouldn't you agree? Now, there are a lot more Renaissance painters at that level than Shakespeare. Shakespeare seems to be the only one, really, but maybe Francis Bacon, I guess. But for the most part, he kind of stood alone, right? Well, there were several. There was a whole group of artists like that were very advanced, that were painting paintings that were just quite extraordinary. And as a painter myself, who can just run to the store, these painters had to have the art and the wherewithal and the knowledge, even how to mix the paints themselves, how to find the ingredients to make those colors. It was probably a pretty tedious endeavor just in terms of getting the paints together to paint, let alone to paint the detail that they did. Now, Rembrandt painted upwards of 80-something self-portraits over the course of his lifetime. Now, the thing that I found quite extraordinary, and I only know this from knowing Benjamin Creme, because Benjamin Creme was actually an artist who knew about the masters and was working with the masters, and he had a unique perspective on everything, but very, very, very unique perspective on art. And I know for myself, prior to meeting Benjamin Creme, when I would see one of these masters' paintings, because I was familiar with who Rembrandt was before I met Benjamin Creme, Leonardo da Vinci, but when he started talking about these master painters and what their purpose was behind painting and how they were painting it and how the different qualities of each one of these individuals came out in their paintings and so forth. Where, a six-ray painter, their paintings are just huge. And he always said it was one of the qualities of the six-ray. It likes to crack a nut with a sledgehammer. So it's way over the top in terms of the way it paints. And then there's these painters who are very controlled and restrained, even in the way that they painted. And they might be a seventh ray, which has a very down-to-earth kind of practical energy to it and so forth. But it really inspired me to paint. Now, the other thing, too, that he talked about Rembrandt. He said Rembrandt spent many lifetimes painting to get to the point where he could do what he did. So it also gave me a lot of hope that, even though I like the way I paint, it's not the end all and be all the way that I will paint in the future, but it's going to take me, many lifetimes to get to the point where I want to, what I see in my head and the purpose of the way that I paint. But eventually, hopefully I'll continue on with it. I might choose a different path. I don't know, but anyway, but for the most of us, the art, even though it might be very inspiring, even for the art historians that spend their whole lifetime studying the Renaissance painters, they don't have a perspective on the art that they're looking at in the same way that Benjamin Creme did. And according to one of the masters, the art of the future, compared to the art of today, will be similar to the art of today being a child playing with building blocks in the yard, and the art of the future, the building of the Sistine Chapel. That's the difference in the quality of it. And it will be more of an artistic view of somebody's life, where the soul will actually create their whole life before they even incarnate, from birth to death, and will live that life like that. I mean, I just can't imagine it, but that's the art of the future. One of the other masters, the same master actually, the Master DK, said that around this time, around 2020-ish, give or take a year or two, there will be another great artistic renaissance. So we have that to look forward to, which I can't wait. So being an artist myself. Now, the thing you might not know about Rembrandt is that Rembrandt actually had intimate knowledge of the masters, worked with the masters. Now, not all of these Renaissance painters, I think, did. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, I don't know. But not just because somebody's a third-degree initiate does not mean that they know of the masters. They're just working. They're working with the masters, but they might not consciously know it. But people like Shakespeare, Mozart, Beethoven, Rembrandt, of course, knew these masters, worked with them, just as Benjamin Creme was working with these masters. Now, at the time that Rembrandt was alive, he lived about 400 years ago, these masters knew that eventually they would have to come back into the world and teach humanity directly. They knew that eventually it would have to happen. But the plan was then that it would be probably another 1,000 years from where we're at today. So maybe year 3000 AD would be the time that humanity would be ready to receive these masters' teachings. So think about it from that perspective. So when people, always leave posts on my thing, well, it's taken too long, or why haven't we still seen Maitreya on TV yet, and we still don't know, I mean, it must be fake or whatever like this. This is way ahead of schedule, from what the masters were thinking. Now, what changed? Well, it was World War II, and the fact that we could destroy ourselves with the atomic bomb is what really brought it way sooner than it would have been. But at the time that Rembrandt was alive, like I said, they were thinking it would be another 1,000 years from now. Now, the other thing, too, you might not know, and the only reason why I know this is because Benjamin Creme talked about it, was Maitreya actually overshadowed Rembrandt when he was painting these self-portraits. I don't know about all of them, but a lot of them, especially toward the tail end of his life. And you're looking at a man who was going through a very tumultuous time in his life, whether it was financially, because he lost everything in bankruptcy, he lost his reputation, to the point where he couldn't even afford his own paintings, is really what it amounted to. He tried to sell them just for a pittance. I mean, now they're worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, right? But at the time, he couldn't even sell them for like, $80, $100. I mean, that's how much he lost his reputation. Because he used to be I guess earlier on in his life, he was very, very well known and very famous and quite wealthy. Lost it all. But you look at this very serene quality when he's painting in his face, and Benjamin Creme talked about it, but also one of his jobs was he actually allowed Maitreya to paint his own eyes into his paintings. So those are Maitreya's eyes. And it was a very simple, very, kind of gentle way of introducing Maitreya back into the world to the public. So when you see, you know, when you stand in front of these paintings, you see that it's like reading Benjamin Creme's master's article. You can absorb what these masters were trying to do. You really could, energetically. I mean, everything is energy, really. But the art of the future and the knowledge of art and what these master painters did and so forth will awaken, I think, the creativity in the hearts of millions of people like it did with me, for sure. Because it'd be like, wow, they could do it, I could do it. It might just take me several lifetimes to get to that point, So hopefully that helps. All right. Now, I don't really have any questions that pertain to what we talk about here that I can really dive into. I have a couple questions I want to cover. The first one comes from Rick. Hi, Gary. Maybe I'm blind, but I don't see a donation link for your YouTube. Rick, you're not blind. There's no donation link. I don't receive donations, really. But if you could do me a favor, if you really wanted to donate money, whatever you were going to donate, $1, $5, whatever it was, right? Keep it in your pocket. And the next homeless person you see that's asking for money, if you could take it out and give it to them, that you've given to my channel. If you could do that, that would be great. You don't have to tell me you did it. I just, I'm just saying, if you really want to do it, you can do it. But you're very kind for looking for it, at least. But you're not blind. Don't worry. You can still see. In fact, actually, as in the article I read, Benjamin Creme's master said it again, for those who have eyes to see. So anyway, you have eyes to see, my friend. The next question, actually, I have to pose a question to whoever wants to help me with this. It says, why not do the translation system for those who are not fluent in English? It is difficult and complicated. Or is this difficult and complicated? Yes, it is. And the person who asked this is my Iraqi friend, Abdullah. And I apologize. I thought it was actually, because I see the subtitles on my videos. So I was thinking it was translating. So I've tried to find it. I've Googled it, and I can't figure it out. So if anybody knows how to put translations on their YouTube channel, if you're willing to email me or even reply to his post, that would be great, because I know he's asked several times for a translation, and I can't figure it out. So any help is appreciated. All right, now let's get on into the Master's article here. It's entitled The End of a Dark Chapter. And as I always say, it's always better for you to read this on your own. I'm old school. I kind of like reading it in a book, but you can look for it online. If you go to the Share International website, you can actually see and read some of these Master's articles for yourself, if that's what you want to do. If you're old school like me, you can find the books on Amazon, or you can actually, I think, go through the Share International group and they can send you the books or so forth. But it's a lot like a Rembrandt painting, right? I mean, it's the difference between me describing it to you and you seeing a photograph of a Rembrandt painting and actually taking the time to go to a museum and actually standing in front of it and looking at it in real life, IRL. When we see the words or we see the art from these masters, it's a whole different thing. And I always say this, if you really get into this information, you start reading Benjamin Creme's masters, words for yourself, and you start to internalize it for yourself. You start to look at it for yourself and hopefully apply what he's talking about for yourself. When it comes your way, and it will, when somebody's saying that they're receiving messages from these masters, you will see the difference between those who think they are receiving messages from these masters and actually the ideas and words coming from a master. So they're two totally different things, night and day. It's the same thing with painting. It's the same thing with music. When you see somebody like, you hear Mozart's music, which came from the hierarchy of masters. It's a totally different quality. Even if you don't really like that type of music, it's a totally different quality than it would be from just some pop group today. I mean, they're just night and day difference. That's why the master said the art of the future is like building the Sistine Chapel compared to the art of today, where the kids just out in the yard playing with building blocks. I mean, it's two totally different things, you know. And when you read Benjamin Creme's answer to these questions and his perspective on these questions, it's a different quality. It really is. So hopefully this helps. All right. But, you know, with everything, it's always better for you to read it yourself. All right. So, end of a dark chapter. World events are moving to a climax. Soon, the peoples of all nations will realize that they are living at a crucial turning point in the evolution of the planet, and together are making history. For some, the passing away of the old is fraught with pain and fear. This is inevitable, as the outworn forms disintegrate in violent chaos. Much blood is being spilled now in the gestation of the new. Nevertheless, for those who have eyes to see, the most remarkable transformations are taking place across the globe, which augurs well for the future of the race. Unheralded, as many of them are, these changes for the better have crept up on humanity's unawares, and quietly and unsung perform their benevolent work of salvage. Thus are the peoples themselves creating the new structures painfully and haltingly at present, but soon to accelerate to a momentum past all imagining. When the changes are at their height, Maitreya himself will step forward for all to see and add his counsel to the deliberations of the people. Thus will the future direction be safeguarded and much painful experiment be avoided. Paramount among his concern is the welfare of the poor and dispossessed. Half the world's population enter this category and present an enormous challenge to the goodwill of men. Maitreya's intention will be to inspire and galvanize that goodwill and so end forever this injustice. That it will not be easy, he already knows. Deep-seated and tenacious are the greed and selfishness of men. But gradually, people will come to see that it is in their own best interest to share the resources of the world, that naught else can save them from disaster. When men gladly and willingly accept the need, the blueprints of sharing will be unrolled and presented to the nations. Thus will the end forever a dark chapter in the history of this planet, and men can start again on the upward path. Whenever the cry of despair finds utterance on a mass scale, the forces of light, their elder brethren of humanity, by law respond. Today, from all corners of the planet, that cry of anguish issues from 1,000 million hearts, bringing to their aid the masters and their master, Maitreya, the Lord of Love. Behind the outer events, the transformations, lies their unseen hand. Their energies engendered vision and courage, and in due course, an all-inclusive synthesis. The present discord and disarray will give place to a new harmony among the nations, reflecting the growing harmony arising in people everywhere in response to Maitreya's presence. Soon for themselves, men will know that the future is bright if they heed his call, and that he is here to stay and to lead them, if they are willing, along a path which leads directly to the source of all. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.